Hi, Justin here with Tilt 5, and today we're going to be talking about a couple different topics relating to using multiple glasses with the Tilt 5 SDK. The first thing we're going to go over is how to upgrade your SDK from previous versions. Next, we're going to talk about upgrading the multiplayer Tilt 5 Manager component to the Tilt 5 Manager 2 component. And finally, we're going to start digging into some of the features of the multiplayer Tilt 5 Manager component, including adding and removing players, player and glasses connect order, unique culling layers, copying values from player 1 to other players, and what being a Tilt 5 player and or a Tilt 5 spectator means. Now, I've got here a game that I built originally using our 1.2 SDK, Huggable Hellhound. Because of that, this game is currently only able to use a single pair of glasses. In fact, if I give it a run, when we take a look at our control panel here, we see that even though there are two different glasses in the control panel connected to the computer, only one of them is connected to the game right now. But if I want to be able to make a two-player game, have two people playing off the same system, we're going to need some upgrades. So, the first thing we're going to do is upgrade the SDK itself. So, coming into our project fresh for the first time, it's important you restart your project after you've started up the glasses you're trying to upgrade. Otherwise, the project will hold on to the glasses references. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our old SDK, this Tilt 5 folder, and we're going to delete it. Now, it might look a little scary. Some things are going to break temporarily. That is totally fine, because all we have to do is if we go import a new package from where it always gets installed in our program files, Tilt 5 SDK Unity plugin, we take this Unity plugin, go ahead and re-import it, and this is going to bring all of the great 1.3 scripts into the project for us. Now, because we haven't moved anything around, everything should load properly immediately, and you'll notice there's no errors. Everything seems to be running great. However, this alone is not enough to get multiple glasses going in your system. There's a couple other stages we have to go through to make sure this upgrade is complete. The next thing I want to talk about is the Tilt 5 Manager, and specifically the difference between the Tilt 5 Manager and what we are calling the Tilt 5 Manager 2. The Tilt 5 Manager 2 is essentially our multiplayer script. It handles all of the necessary information for getting multiple glasses into the game, how you might kind of interact with the glasses in different ways, all that kind of stuff. Now, one problem, one fear you might have coming into this is, let's say you've been building up till now using the Tilt 5 Manager, and you've got all kinds of settings already saved for your project, and you don't want to lose those settings by moving to a new version. Well, if you look on the Tilt 5 Manager script, there should be a new little button at the bottom called Upgrade to Tilt 5 Manager 2. And this button does exactly what it sounds like. It takes all of the values from your Tilt 5 Manager script and copies them over to the Tilt 5 Manager 2 script, and now you're all set to start using multiple glasses. If you are starting your project fresh, another option is in these prefabs here. We have two different prefabs available. The Tilt 5 prototype, as it's this one here, is what you use if you're just using single-player experiences. This has the old Tilt 5 Manager script on it. The Tilt 5 prefab, this one, already comes built with the Tilt 5 Manager 2. So, now that we've upgraded to the Tilt 5 Manager 2 on our main script, the most important thing to keep in mind is how many players you want to use in the game. And that's where this top option here is. Right now, Tilt 5 allows for a maximum of 4 players in the game. Each time you hit this plus, it's going to add another option, another player slot, that this game will attempt to fill once it gets started. So as soon as I set it to 2, looks like we have a small error here. Just wants to make sure it has a game board that's matching the proper game board here. So I'm going to make sure that it's matching the Tilt 5 game board object that's already on this prototype. As soon as I've set it to 2 players here, you'll notice all of the values have copied over from the first player, and all we need to do at this point is hit play. And if we take a look at our control panel, we'll see that both players have been grabbed in the game. In fact, we have 2 different glasses over here on the left. We have one that I currently have on a stand looking down at the board, and this second one, it's not doing anything yet, but as soon as I point it at the board, we should see it start moving around. There we go. Just like that, you can see where that second player is, kind of looking at the board from a different perspective. Now, there's some important things to keep in mind about this Tilt 5 Manager 2. Some cool different features that have been built into it, as well as some important terms and concepts to be aware of. Once you've added another player into the game, you're going to see a lot of different features here that will be very, very useful for different aspects of this project. The one I want to focus on most is going to be what's called the culling mask. This is very important for multiplayer games because, for example, if you have in-game UI, like I have this screen here, my Player 1 UI, built into the world, I don't necessarily want the second player to be able to see that. So, if I go ahead and set the layer of this UI to Player 1, make sure all the children are on that same layer, then in the manager, I can come to the second player. Now normally, all values on players 2, 3, and 4 will get copied directly from Player 1. But, if I click this chain to break the link, I can change which layers are going to be visible for different players. This is really useful for creating custom UIs and showing things distinct to each player in their scene. Now, the next important thing, or the next important term that I want to cover is something called a spectator player. Now, with the 1.3 SDK, Tilt 5 Manager 2 and all that, we've introduced something we refer to as spectator mode. What spectator mode is in essence, other glasses in the scene that do not have any control interaction as of yet. Because setting up controls takes more time and that's a little bit more involved and something we covered in another video, we wanted to make it as accessible as possible for even single-player games to have multiple people watching what's going on the board at the same time. And that's where this concept of a spectator or a spectator mode comes in. And the amazing thing about that is the only thing you need to do to have a spectator is change the number of players. As soon as this number increases, I can now grab up to 3 glasses that are plugged into the computer, and each glass will display as its own set of cameras on the board. They'll be able to move their head around, look from a different perspective. Now, unless you as the developer set up more controls, they can't really interact with anything in the scene, but they do exist to actually view the content on the board. This is really useful for single-player content if you're trying to allow more than one person to kind of view what's going on. Now, the next topic I want to cover is the term spectated player. This is a very important concept because it allows you as the developer to see what's going on inside the game. If you look below the Tilt 5 Manager per player settings, you'll see a section called Global Settings, and in particular, something called Spectating. Now, Spectating is what controls what's displayed inside of the Game tab, right here, and by extension, what's displayed on the computer screen while the game is playing. Now, by default, we have a kind of stabilized view from a specific player with this mirror mode none. But if I change it to the left eye mode for player 1, this allows me to kind of jump back and forth between which player I am looking at the board with. Sorry about the shakes. It's a little hard to hold the camera, hold the glasses, and move the mouse at the same time. But the idea behind spectating here is it allows you to see what individual players are going to be seeing from their perspective inside the game. It's really useful if, for example, you wanted to show off the different UI layers. If we look right now, let's see, I can move these glasses back a bit, and you can kind of see the UI that exists for those glasses on the scene. Those are, if we're looking through the player's left eye, you can see exactly where those are. But if I move to player 2, you'll notice there's no more UI where it should be in the scene, and that's because of those unique player layers that I set earlier on in the project. Now, the final important phrase or term I want to throw out that is useful when working with this system is what's called the player index. Each glasses object that connects gets assigned internally a player index from 1 to 4, which is basically its player order, matching this list here, in the system. Now, how those get assigned is dependent on the control panel. The glasses are listed in the control panel, and the order you see them listed in the control panel is in fact the order that they will connect to the game and the same index that they will match up to within the system. So my glasses, I've named player 1 here because they're first in the control panel. They will always be player index 1 inside the game. Player 2 here is always going to be player index 2 inside the game. This is really important when you're trying to figure out whose controls you want to use, for example. You often need to pass not just a button you're trying to get a value of, but also the player index of the specific glasses you're trying to reference. With all that said, that should be all you need. Go ahead and have fun.